collateral damage, but I'ma pay homage. I remember listening to music when I was in college. Even when I was young, I was always seeking the knowledge. Daydreaming of my wife's thighs, cause I love the fraudage. No cap, I'ma always keep it solid. Niggas asking me for crypto even though I lost my wallet. My clients, schizophrenic and psychotic. That's why my relationship with them is symbiotic. Nas said he remains flyest in the fat canias. I don't know what that means, but I pray to the most highest.
We must pay homage to him.
You know you're breaking my heart.
Yo, the manifesto, peep the manifesto. I'm flying on a plane from the north to archipelago. Your life's were bought in gold, even though it's hot and cold.
I hope so.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Let's get right into it, man. Echo chambers, right? We're gonna talk about echo chambers, echo chambers, whatever you want to call it. The hive mentality, the tribal mentality. You know, dates back hunters and gatherers, etc., etc. Right? Get it? I get it. I understand it. But on the internet, it gets very, very tricky. It gets very tricky on the internet with the whole hive mentality, tribalism, echo chamber foolishness. Right? We're gonna break this down real quick. You know, it's amazing to me when you discover that something that you believe in, something that you've been a part of, something that you had blind faith in, damn near, turns out to be something else, and you continue to ignore, you continue to remain blind. You continue to remain in a state of disillusionment. You continue to suffer from cognitive dissonance and make excuses for it and justify it. Justify why you want to remain in a state of subjugation. It's astounding. It's actually quite sad. What am I talking about? Well, it's clear as day. You know, I've been creating content for a long time. And I've always talked about when you're creating content, you don't know who's listening to you, right? You don't know what effect the words that you're talking about will have on others, how they will be impacted by what you're saying. This is why in my mind, I always think about being responsible for what you talk about, holding yourself accountable, right, for what you discuss and what you say on the internet. Because this thing, again, you don't know who's listening. You don't know who's not listening. But someone may hear what you're saying and act on your messaging. People take advantage of that. We've seen it time and time again. Right? Their voices grow louder because more and more people start to listen, start to share, start to believe, and start to also herald or deliver the same messages to others, right? Where you have platforms, right? People have big channels, big voices, quote unquote big voices and big things and whatever, become popular, become influencers, become all this, that, have podcasts, etc., on the internet. Cool. You know, become a personality, if you will, an internet or some type of social media personality, stuff like that. Okay, cool. Not understanding how they have now become weaponized. They've weaponized themselves in a situation, placed themselves in a position where they are influencing things, right? They're wielding a certain type of power. They're wielding a certain type of authority by default, just because more and more people are gravitating towards the messaging, towards the personality, towards the energy, right? That the people, that these whatever social media or content creators or personalities convey. The messages that you put out there, right? People like it, they gravitate. All of a sudden, you're somebody in the internet, in a space filled with nobodies, right? You signals, you separate yourself from everybody else because, oh, now you're a voice out of 8 billion voices. It's dangerous when it becomes self-defeating. You see, there's everyone out here in the world, right? They have their own lives, their own mission, their own lives to lead and live. And when you're on the internet and when you're talking about certain things that appeal to others, right? That may interest a certain group of people. Again, you have to be careful of what you're talking about. But certain people, individuals don't care, right? It's about spreading whatever so that they can get paid, right? Because there's a selfish component that I'm not oblivious to, and I get it. People do this for attention. I'm not an exception. But the attention doesn't become all-encompassing for me. Like, I'm not clout chasing, for example. I'm not doing things just to do it for shock value. I'm not doing this just to make $1, just for the sake of making $1 and not care about the messaging as long as you just give me money because I got bills to pay, etc., etc. Find other ways to do that in a more a productive and even healthier way. But you have a lot of people on the internet who do not care, right? And they start to grow their following, they grow their platforms, and before you know it, they have their own echo chambers that they're heads of, right? Okay. In crypto, no different. No different. No different at all. We've seen it. We've seen it, and we'll continue to see it. But this is the part that I think is important, right? Some people, they join these groups, they join these communities, and they believe that their situation is the absolute best versus everybody else's situation. Everyone else doesn't know what they're talking about. Everyone else has it wrong except them. Oh, there are thousands and thousands of groups out here that believe that they have the secret. They are wielding and holding on to the secret of secrets, the holy grail of the best crypto, and these cryptos and whatever they're dealing with is going to outperform everything else in the world. And in truth, we've seen the opposite occur, right? Okay. In the last few years, for me, as a blogger, content creator, internet, whatever, YouTuber, whatever you want to call it, I've been talking about a certain set of coins, right? Been talking about a certain type of messaging that's been promoted, that's been espoused by the founder of a certain community, right? And so I also passed on that same information for 4 years. 3 out of the 4, I should say. 3 out of the 4 completely obsessed with giving out this information, giving out the same talk, giving out the same rhetoric over and over and over again, discovering different ways to send the same message out. Y'all, a lot of you don't know how difficult that is because you just don't know. Some of you do, right? Shout out to the ones that have been creating content and spreading the same message and trying to do it differently to hold the attention of the people, or to actually just basically inform folks, educate, or whatever. And I'm not talking about the grifters, and I'm not talking about the people that, you know, want to just scam everyone and right, have everybody pay for their lifestyle, ask everybody for money so that they don't have to work. I'm not talking about those individuals that created creative ways to scheme, creative ways to extract value from their viewers, from their supporters, and from their audience. I'm not talking about those creators. I'm talking about people who just kept their focus and was talking about a certain set of coins that I don't talk about anymore. And if I do, it's just like whatever, because it's connected to a founder that has done things that have created a lot of confusion, a lot of controversy, a lot of contradictions, a great deal of lies and hypocrisy. And enough is enough. If I keep talking about these situations, I become that, in a sense where I'm supporting the foolishness, right? I'm advocating for the dumb, the ignorance, the stupidity, right? I become sort of like a component, a proponent of something that's very problematic, stemming from somebody who you can tell is disconnected, who's the head of a cult, who's the head of their own echo chamber, who's the head of their own tribalism, whatever. And when you spew that, when you continue that, you just push. It's almost like you creating a bigger problem. You being a social agent, if you will, or a social media person that's furthering a dysfunctional situation, that's helping people experience loss. I'm not about that. Enough is enough. Like, I could understand market fluctuation. I could understand macro, micro, things that happen, volatility, cycles. I can understand all of those things. But when you add certain other factors that have been completely obvious, that can be traced back to the blockchain and has been there, and you pretend like it doesn't exist, then that's when I have to draw the line and say, oh no, I'm not doing this. And it's not always about blaming something on a founder, when you can technically really not tie anything to the founder, but you can tie many things that he said to him, from the contradictions and from the power that he has by just issuing tweets and affecting market manipulation and creating market movements. He can issue one tweet and rug his own operation. We've seen it time and time again. Or not as rug his entire operation, but create considerable pain on the chain. And it's not about, let me just say this, right? You know, people are unwilling to step outside themselves and look at what's going on. Really, like, try to step outside yourself, even though you're partial, you might be biased, you know, you're completely involved with a situation, but sometimes you really have to look from the outside in to really see something for what it is. Try to be objective and say, this is weird. This is weird. And you might be surprised at what you discover after realizing that, yeah, things are weird. The echo chamber, and depending on which echo chamber you're involved with, might yield devastating results, destructive results over time. Seriously. You know, we've seen
We've seen certain things not go up. No green candles. No money's being made from coins that we were told were supposed to be the core of the core of the core. And then what happens? Oh, you hear a bunch of rhetoric for years. Oh no, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to hold on, you need to have faith. What are you doing? This and that. Why are you crying? Why are you complaining? Etc. etc. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You told people this is what it is, and then we're witnessing what it's not. We're witnessing what it hasn't produced. We're witnessing problems. We're witnessing, and then you hear all this smoke screen, all this illusion, right? From the echo chamber. How healthy is that? When people want to tell you about toxicity, oh, this thing has reached a certain boiling point where it's just like, man, people are far gone, so far gone. There will be case studies. I'm interested. The case study that can be created from this situation is not hard. If someone really was of the mind to really research the last 4 years of the shenanigans that have been taking place in that community. Oh man, do you want to talk about Nobel Peace Prize worthy of anything or whatever, Pulitzer Prize, whatever literary work of academia? Look at this right here. We're going to study this situation right here and look at what has occurred. Look at how people have been impacted, adversely impacted. Look at it to the point where allegedly people lost their own lives. Allegedly. But it's really that serious. But folks want to dismiss and pretend like, oh no, that's, stop crying. Why don't you hold on? This person is not that much different from a cult. Not that much different. And in a cult, when I say, I'm talking about the negative attributes of a cult. Of a cult leader, the cult members, the cult mentality, the cult behaviors, right? The negative attributes. And it's disgusting to dismiss and pretend like what's going on is not really adding more harm, creating more harm than good. Forget about these slogans that have been coined by the head of that situation, that people now say like they just up into the right and all this. Everything's been down into the right, but no one talks about that. It's just up into the right or up into the right. This is the best of the best, and meanwhile you're witnessing something else, the wreck of the wrecked. Oh no, but have faith. You know what? And then some people say, oh, if it's so bad, why don't you just sell? But see, this is another thing. When you're understanding what you're doing, and let's say you're staking. Oh, easy for you to say sell, but when a person is staking and they're true to it, they're not going to sell before their stake ends to make themselves experience unnecessary penalties and loss. You understand? So in other words, if you bought into whatever psychological operation that was tied in some nondescript situation with the coin and how it works and how you're supposed to lock it up for 15 plus years, and if you did that and you believed in it and you're doing it, okay, cool. But guess what? You think that's the only coin out of everything out here that's going to bring opportunity? Meanwhile, you're watching how the community performs. You're watching how the head of the operation flip-flops. You're watching how things are happening when you're told there's not supposed to be any admin keys. Meanwhile, you're watching things change with the application of using admin keys. While this whole time all these things are going on and it's creating nothing but absolute confusion. people are justifying and say, oh no, it's about shaking the weak people out. Everything is going to go to zero so that it could be low enough so it could be just as low so it's easier for everything to pump. Take out all the liquidity so it could just be so easy to pump to the heavens. All this crazy stuff going on. Meanwhile, there's an entire world taking place. Life doesn't revolve around your 15-year nondescript situation and operation. There's an entire life that's existed before and will exist after it and during in the present. And you want to close yourself to some type of hive mentality and deal with the pressures from people who don't want to see you succeed. Because what else do you call this? For those who want to hope in something greater and wanted to experiment and take a chance and a risk by investing in something, locking it up 15 years, they're paying for it now. And for what? You think they came into this just to experience confusion, just to experience nothing but just treachery, just to experience disappointment? Oh, but it's no expectations, right? Come on, save the games for right, for the children. Save the games for the children. But people don't want to see things for what they are. They think whatever they got going on is the absolute best thing. This is why I learned a long time ago growing up. It's very important. It's very important to consider broadening your view, broadening and your scope of things, opening your mind, and not living in a silo, in a situation where you are so narrow-minded. You're so narrow-minded. You're living life wearing blinders, like a horse. You're wearing blinders, and you only see things one way. Life doesn't present things one way. Life presents opportunity and options and choices in a innumerable amount of ways. So you're already placing yourself at a disadvantage, remaining closed-minded. You're just so obstinate. You don't want to see anything else besides what you think is right. And before you know it, at some point, you're going to see how those limitations have stunted your opportunity for real growth, your opportunity for real prosperity and development. Because you think your echo chamber mentality, your singular, narrow-minded mentality will bring everything that you desire. And if it does, bravo. Good for you. You won. You are the outlier of outliers, right? But you think 8 billion other people, are going to succeed, are going to be successful in doing it. It's not what life has shown. It's not how life goes. It's not how this works. People are so closed to everything. It's just it after a while it just doesn't make sense anymore, right? It's weird. You can't just believe that whatever you got going on is the best of the best of the best versus everything else. You look at a plant and say, oh, look at this plant right here. This is the best plant in the planet. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? This is the only plant that exists. This piece of herb is the best herb out of all the herbs known in nature. That doesn't connect. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate. But when are people going to wake up? It's not for me to tell people to wake up, in a sense, even though, it sounds like it and I get it, right? I'm encouraging people to open their mind. Right? Cast a wide net, see what you catch. See what you catch out there. The world is huge. Things that are happening that we can't even fathom. Opportunity is out here for the taking, for sure. For sure. But when you remain closed, you cut yourself off from everything else. You cut yourself off. And who can you blame Who can you blame when the results that you were looking for do not materialize? You can only blame yourself. You can only blame yourself. And the lessons that come with that, hopefully you grasp, hopefully you learn, and you be able to move forward in a better way. So when these things do arise again, these things, you know how to attack them, or you know how to, execute and do what you have to do. But the hive mind mentality, whole thing, completely, sometimes, I get it and I understand, right? I get it. Sure. Teams, and this team is better than that team, or this community is better than that community. I get all that. Natural human behavior. Again, hunters and gatherers. I get that. That makes, yeah. But when whatever you got going on is just disappointing, to say the least, why not look around you and see what's happening here within your situation? Like, really, I'm not even saying, think about this. I'm not even saying for you to just forget about what you got going on and go elsewhere. Why don't you take a look, take a gander? Why don't you observe? And if you choose to analyze what's causing the disappointment, what's causing you to experience the loss, what's causing you to not really achieve the outcome that you thought or that you even expected? Because forget about that no expectation stuff. Everybody got expectations, for sure. Forget about that magical mumbo jumbo nonsense rhetoric. What's causing you to experience the problem you've experienced? If you can't and are unwilling to really look within your own circle, within your own community, within your own cult, to identify the flaws, to identify the shortcomings, to identify the weaknesses that exist, then I got nothing for you. And may the force be with you, in the voice in quote unquote Yoda. May the force be with you. May there's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to say. If you can't see the foolishness that's going on within your community, within your circle, however small or however large, then what more is there to be said? If you're unwilling to see that, you're unwilling to see everything else. If you're unwilling to see the problems and the weaknesses and whatever you got going on within yourself and within your life, you're not going to be able to accept everything else that's going on around you. That just makes sense to me. And that's why you have, mine is better than you, person versus person, team versus team, this and that and this. You don't see harmony, right? You don't see people, you don't see a balance. You don't see a real meeting of the minds. You don't see real people bridging, and where it's yielding bountiful and plentiful abundance and result. You don't see that. That's why you have friction all the time. That's why you have tension. That's why you have conflict, right? Because folks just want to get caught up in their own egos, their own pride, their own greed, and being supremely selfish, absolutely selfish. It's about them versus you and everybody else. Dog eat dog. I don't care what system you talking about. We're talking about basic primal situation right now. That's why you got what you got going on. It's all, you don't like it so much, then so why are you crying and all this and that? No, it's bigger than that, man. It's much more than that. It's not about crying. It's about analyzing, right? It's not about believing, solely trusting. It's about verifying. Verify that you're a liar. Verify you've been a hypocrite. Verify that you are disingenuous. It's verifiable. and could also say, verify that if money's been locked in a system for 15 years, okay, well, there's the proof. It's on the chain. Verify that it's taking forever for a nondescript to reach some kind of perceived glory that they're looking for. And meanwhile, everybody else is holding the bag and praying that some kind of shipping container brings relief. Shipping container. Keep buying into this narrative that's something, that somebody's doing something that's gonna help you while you miss out on opportunities that's all around you. You're seeing it all the time. Seeing it all the time. Keep living like a horse with blinders. And you gotta deal with everything that comes with that.